We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, would interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast, everyone. This is Abe, your host. I'm finally starting the series that I've been wanting to start, Leave the World Behind. Basically, it's going to be a read-through of the book and getting into discussing it in general. So this is Leave the World Behind, a novel by Rumaan Alam. I guess we'll start with just reading basically the jacket, what's on the jacket as far as like the praise for the book. Rumaan Alam's Leave the World Behind is a canny Trojan horse of a novel and also a Pandora's box. Like the family at its center, we are utterly seduced by bounty and insularity of its world, only to find ourselves inch by inch approaching a larger darkness lurking just beyond. With a potent Shirley Jackson energy, it is both eerily timeless and sharply prescient, and lingers long after its final page. Let me know how clear I'm coming into, by the way, because it's my first time. I think it's my first podcast recorded on this new computer, not sure. For some reason, my wife says no, but I remember recording one before. But Leave the World Behind is so many things: funny, sharp, insightful, and modernity, and race, and parenthood, and home. But at its core, it's a story of our shared apocalypse, a steady look at humanity in the moment it tumbles from a great height. I have not been this profoundly unnerved by a science fiction novel since Ishiguro's Never Let Me Go. Here in your hands, wrapped in the delicious cloth of suspense, Leave the World Behind begs us to ask the most important questions. How do we let the other in? Where do we draw the borders of home? And a prescient book, built for these strange times, sure to entrance and electrify. Rumaan Alam is a brilliant writer, a beautiful prose stylist with an uncanny talent for drawing characters, both their individual quirks and foibles, and the subtle gradations of class and circumstance. In this novel, he combines those gifts with absolutely superb pacing and atmospheric control, balancing the comic and the tragic, the real and the surreal, the cynical and the empathetic, the individual and the collective. Leave the World Behind is that of rarest of things, a beautifully written, emotionally resonant page-turner. Alam explores complex ideas about privilege and fate with miraculous wit and grace. In the confined space of a single home, this remarkable novel takes on some of the hardest questions of our time about class, race, and who we become in moments of growing uncertainty. In every eloquent scene, Alam reveals something new about what being a family means in the 21st century. Rumaan Alam's witty, incisive take on the American privileged class has always been hilarious, but there's a sinister shadow behind the satire in his latest book, as it becomes increasingly tense and unsettling. Alam has achieved a rare feat, a comic novel that is also genuinely terrifying. So that's the inside jacket and the outside jacket, the praise for the book. And we are going to do like a deep dive on Rumaan Alam in general, just to see, because this is a conspiracy podcast and a conspiracy channel, just to kind of look and see if there's anything weird and shady going on in general there. So here's what it's got as far as the about the author information on the jacket. Rumaan Alam is the author of the novels Rich and Pretty and That Kind of Mother. His writing has appeared in the New York Times, the New Republic, New York Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, Book Forum, the New Yorker, and elsewhere. He studied at Oberlin College and lives in Brooklyn, New York. So here's the actual description of Leave the World Behind. Amanda and Clay head out to a remote corner of Long Island, expecting a vacation. A quiet reprieve from life in New York City, quality time with their teenage son and daughter, and a taste of the good life in the luxurious home they've rented for the week. But with a late-night knock on the door, the spell is broken. Ruth and G.H., an older couple who claim to own the home, have arrived there in a panic. So Ruth and G.H., I'm guessing the daughter is not actually a character. I'm guessing it's a wife, because it said an older couple. I did watch the movie. I'm going to rewatch it and probably do a movie review on it, and analyze it some more. And in the movie, it's a daughter, a father and daughter who come back into the house. Ruth and G.H., an older couple who claim to own the home, have arrived there in a panic. These strangers say that a sudden blackout has swept New York, and with nowhere else to turn, they've come to the country in search of shelter. But with the TV and internet down and no cell phone service, the facts are unknowable. Should Amanda and Clay trust this intruding couple, and vice versa? What has happened back in New York? Is the vacation home isolated from civilization, truly a safe place for their families? And are they safe from one another? Suspenseful and provocative, Rumaan Alam's third novel is keenly attuned to the complexities of parenthood, race, and class. Leave the World Behind explores how our closest bonds are reshaped and unexpected new ones are forged in a moments of crisis. So, this was actually, a lot of people don't know, this was actually on Obama's reading list, which I find weird that, I guess he has a book club. I don't know, I've never been that obsessed with a president that I would join their book club, you know. And then it says the book was dedicated for Simon and for Xavier, whoever that is. After that, it has a quote, "Love goes on like birdsong as soon as possible after a bomb," by Bill Callahan. I guess it says, quote-unquote, Angela, so I'm guessing that's a poem. Chapter 1. Well, the sun was shining. They felt that boded well. People turn any old thing into an omen. It was all just to say no clouds were to be seen. The sun, where the sun always was, the sun persistent and indifferent. Roads merged into one another. The traffic congealed. Their gray car was a bell jar. A microclimate, air conditioning, the funk of adolescence, sweat, feet, sebum. Amanda French's shampoo, the rustle of debris, for there was always that. The car was Clay's domain, and he was lax enough that it accrued the talus of oats from granola bars bought in bulk, the unexplained tube sock, a subscription insert from the New Yorker. Ha! He shouted out the magazine that he writes for. I don't know. I just think that's funny. Product placement. A twisted tissue, ossified with snot, the wisp of white plastic peeled from the back of a Band-Aid. Who knew when? Kids were always needing a Band-Aid. Pink skin splitting like summer fruit. The sunlight on their arms was reassuring. The windows were tinted with a protectant to keep cancer at bay. There was news of an intensifying hurricane season. Storms with fanciful names from a pre-approved list. Amanda turned down the radio. Was it sexist somehow that Clay drove and always did? Seriously? I can already tell just from the movie and from just that little 2 paragraphs that I'm guessing this Rumaan Alam dude is like definitely woke, social justice warrior. Well, Amanda had no patience for the attendant sacraments of alternate side of the street parking and the 12,000-mile checkup. Besides, Clay took pride in that kind of thing. He was a professor, and that seemed to correlate with his relish for life's useful task. Bundling old newspapers for recycling, scattering chemical pellets on the sidewalk when the weather turned icy, replacing light bulbs, unclogging stopped sinks with a miniature plunger. The car was not so new as to be luxurious, nor so old to be bohemian. A middle-class thing for middle-class people, engineered not to offend more than to appeal. Purchased at a showroom with mirrored walls, some half-hearted balloons, and several more salesmen than customers, lingering in 2s or 3s, jingling the change in their pockets of their Men's Warehouse slacks. Sometimes, in the parking lot, Clay would approach some other iteration of the car. It was a popular model, graphite, frustrated when the keyless entry system failed to engage. Archie was 15. He wore misshapen sneakers the size of bread loaves. There was a scent of milk about him, as there was to young babies, and beneath that, sweat and hormone. To mitigate all this, Archie sprayed a chemical into the thatch under his arms, a smell unlike any in nature, a focus group's consensus of the masculine ideal. So here he goes, getting into what is masculinity and all that jazz. Rose paid better attention, the shadow of a young girl in flower. A bloodhound might find the metal beneath the whiff of the entry-level cosmetics, the pubescent predilection for fake apples and cherries. They smelled, everyone did, but you couldn't drive the expressway with the windows open. It was too loud. I have to take this. Amanda held the telephone aloft, warning them, even though no one was saying anything. Archie looked at his own phone, Rose at hers, both with games and parentally pre-approved social media. Archie was texting with his friend Dylan, whose 2 dads were atoning for their ongoing divorce by letting him spend the summer smoking pot in the uppermost floor of their Bergen Street brownstone. Rose has already posted multiple photographs of the trip, though they'd only just crossed the county line. Hey Jocelyn, that telephone's new. Who was calling? Obviated nicety. Amanda was an account director. Jocelyn, account supervisor, and one of her 3 direct reports in the parlance of the modern office. Jocelyn, of Korean parentage, had been born in South Carolina, and Amanda continued to feel that the woman's mealy-mouthed accent was incredulous. This was so racist she could never admit it to anyone. So, obviously, if you've seen the movie, you know that Julia Roberts is basically a racist. I'm sorry to bother you. Jocelyn's syncopated breath. It was less that Amanda was fearsome than that power was. Amanda had started her career in the studio of a temperamental Dane with a haircut like a tonsure. She'd run into the man at a restaurant the previous winter and felt queasy. It's not a problem. Amanda wasn't magnanimous. Why is this dude like, he chooses the craziest fucking words? I swear I can read. Magnanimous. The call was a relief. She wanted her colleagues to need her as God wants people to keep praying. So she's got Messiah complex. Clay drummed his fingers on the leather steering wheel, earning a sideways glance from his wife. He looked at the mirror to confirm that his children were still there, a habit forged in their infancy. The rhythm of his breath was steady. The phones worked on them like those bulbous flutes did on cobras. None of them really saw the highway landscape. The brain abets the eye. Eventually, your expectations of a thing supersede the thing itself. Yellow and black pictographs. Hillocks fading into prefab concrete walls. The occasional glimpse of a split-level railroad crossing. Baseball diamond, above-ground pool. Amanda nodded when she took the calls, not for the benefit of the person on the other end of the phone, but to prove to herself that she was engaged. Sometimes, amid the head nodding, she forgot to listen. Jocelyn. Amanda tried to find some wisdom. Jocelyn didn't need Amanda's input as much as she did her consent. Office hierarchy was arbitrary, like everything. That's fine, I think that's wise. We're just on the expressway. You can call, don't worry about it. But service is spotty once we get farther out. I had this problem last summer. Do you remember? She paused and was embarrassed. Why would her underlying remember Amanda's previous year's vacation plans? We're going farther out this year, she said. She made it into a joke. But call or email, of course, it's fine. Good luck, she said. Everything's okay back at the office? Clay could never resist pronouncing the office with a twist of something. It was a synecdoche for her profession, which he largely, but not entirely, understood. A spouse should have her own life, and Amanda's was quite apart from his. Maybe that helped explain their happiness. At least half the couples they knew were divorced. It's fine, she said. One of her most reached for truisms was that some percentage of jobs were indistinguishable from one another, as they all involved the sending of emails, assessing the job itself. A workday was several communiques about the workday then underway. Some bureaucratic politesse, 70 minutes at lunch, 20 minutes caroming around the open plan, 25 minutes drinking coffee. Sometimes her part in the charade felt silly, and other times it felt urgent. The traffic was not so bad, and then, as highways narrowed into streets, it was. Akin to the final, arduous leg of a salmon's trip back home, only with lush green medians and mini-malls of rain-stained stucco. The towns were either blue-collar and full of Central Americans, or prosperous and polluted by the white demi-monde of plumbers and interior designers and real estate brokers. The actual rich lived in some other realm, like Narnia. You had to happen onto it. Trace speed-bumpy roads to the inevitable terminus, a cul-de-sac, a shingled mansion, a view of a pond. The air was that sweet cocktail of ocean breeze and happenstance. Good for tomatoes and corn. But you thought you could Also catch a note of luxury cars, fine art, those soft textiles rich people leave piled onto their sofas. Should we stop for a bite? Clay yawned at the end of his sentence, a strangled sound. I'm starving, Archie's hyperbole. Let's go to Burger King. Rose had spied the restaurant. Clay could feel his wife tense up. She preferred that they eat healthily, especially Rose. He could pick up her disapproval like a sonar. It was like the swell that presaged an erection. They'd been married 16 years. Amanda ate French fries. Archie requested a grotesque number of little briquettes of fried chicken. He dumped these into a paper bag, mixed in some French fries, dribbled in the contents of a small foil-topped container of a sweet and sticky brown sauce, and chewed contentedly. Gross. Rose did not approve of her brother, because he was her brother. She ate less primly than she thought. A hamburger, mayonnaise ringing her pink lips. Mom, Hazel dropped a pen. Can you look at this and see how far her house is? Amanda remembered being shocked by how loud the children had been as infants at her breast, draining and suckling like the sound of plumbing, dispassionate burps and muted flatulence like a dud firecracker, animal and unashamed. She reached behind for her girl's phone, greasy from food and fingers, hot from overuse. Honey, this is not going to be anywhere near us, she responded. Hazel was less than a friend than one of Rose's obsessions. Rose was too young to understand, but Hazel's father was a director at Lazard. The two families' vacations would not much resemble one another. Just look, you said maybe we could drive over there. That was the kind of thing she would suggest when half paying attention and come to rue. Later, because the kids remembered her promises. Amanda looked at the phone. It's East Hampton, honey. It's an hour at least. More than, depending on the day. Rose leaned back in her seat, audibly disgusted. Can I have my phone back, please? Amanda turned and looked at her daughter, frustrated and flushed. I'm sorry, but I don't want to sit through 2 hours of summer traffic for a play date, not when I'm on vacation. The girl folded her arms across her chest, a pout like a weapon. Playdate. She was insulted. Archie chewed at his reflection in the window. Clay ate as he drove. Amanda would be furious if they were killed in a collision because he'd been distracted by a 700-calorie sandwich. The roads narrowed further. Farm stands, honor system, felted green pints of hairy raspberries, moldering in their juices, and a wooden box for your $5 bill. On some of the drives, winding off the main road, everything was so green it was frankly a little crazy. You wanted to eat it, get out of the car, get down on all fours, and bite into the earth itself. Let's get some air. Clay opened all the windows, banishing the stink of his farting children. He slowed the car because the road was curvy, seductive, a hip switched back and forth. Designer mailboxes like a hobo sign. Good taste and good wealth pass on by. You couldn't see anything. The trees were that full. Signs warned of deer, idiotic and injured to the presence of humans. They strutted into the streets confidently, wall-eyed and therefore blind. You saw their corpses everywhere, nut-browned and pneumatic, with death. They rounded a bend and confronted a vehicle. Archie, at age 4, would have known the word for it, a gooseneck trailer, a huge empty conveyance being towed by a determined tractor. The driver ignored the car at his back, the local nonchalance for a familiar invasive species, as the trailer huffed over the road's swells. It was more than a mile before it turned off towards its homestead, and by that point, Ariadne's thread or whatever bound them to the satellites overhead, had snapped. The GPS had no idea where they were, and they had to follow the directions that Amanda, adept planner, had thought to copy into her notebook. Left, then right, then left, then right, then another mile or so, then left again, then 2 more miles, then right. Not quite lost, but not quite lost. So, it makes me wonder, where the GPS just cut out right there. Does that mean that, I don't know, just because I watched the movie and I already know what happens, at least in the movie, everything cut off as far as like Cyber Polygon finally kicked in, all the power, well, not the power, but like the internet went out first. But they were already at the house. So it makes me wonder if in the book, because like everyone knows, books are different than movies, did the power just cut out right there? Instead of at the house. So I'm curious now. Just a little small talk. That was the end of chapter 1. We're going to do chapter 2 next. 4th of July is coming up. I hear we're going to get some rain here in Kentucky. Rains every year, it seems like. And this is the first year that I've been off. Kind of bums me out because this is like the first year I can actually enjoy it. I haven't been able to enjoy a 4th of July in, I think, several years. So, sadly, it's going to rain. But here we go. And these are actually shorter chapters. Like, this next chapter is only 3 pages. But I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Chapter 2. The house was brick, painted white. There was something alluring about the red so transformed. The house looked old but new. It looked solid but light. Perhaps that was a fundamentally American desire, or just a modern urge to want a house, a car, a book, a pair of shoes, to embody these contradictions. Amanda had found the place on Airbnb. The ultimate escape, the ad proclaimed. She respected the chummy advertising speak of the description. Step into our beautiful house and leave the world behind. So there you go. That's where you get the title from. She'd handed the laptop, hot enough to incubate tumors in her abdomen, over to Clay. He nodded, said something non-committal. But Amanda had insisted upon this vacation. The promotion came with a raise. So soon, Rose would finish into high school disdain. For this fleeting moment, the children were still mostly children, even if Archie approached 6 feet tall. Amanda could, if not conjure, at least remember Archie's high, girlish voice. So I'm guessing he's going through puberty. The chunk of Rose against her hip. An old saw, but on your deathbed, would you remember the night you took the clients to that old steakhouse on 36th Street and asked after their wives, or bobbing about in the pool with your kids, dark lashes beaded with chlorinated water? This looks nice. Clay switched off the car. The kids released seatbelts and pushed open the doors and leapt onto the gravel, eager as Stassi. Don't go far, Amanda said. Though this was nonsense. There was nowhere to go. Maybe the woods. She did worry about Lyme disease. In the movie, one of the characters gets bit by a tick and they actually kind of hint at Lyme disease. I would like to do a whole episode on the origins of Lyme disease and the connections to the government basically creating Lyme disease. Because it's a conspiracy theory within itself. So maybe next episode, maybe that's what we'll do. We'll dive into the origins of Lyme disease. Where did I go? Sorry about that. This was just her maternal practice, to interject with authority. The children had long since ceased hearing her daily plaints. The gravel made its gravelly sound under Clay's leather driving shoes. How do we get in? There's a lockbox. Amanda consulted her phone. There was no service. They weren't even on a road. She held the thing over her head, but the little bars refused to fill. So I wonder if it's already started. Because the GPS went out and now her phone's not getting signal. So she had saved this information. The lockbox on the fence by the pool heater. Code 6292. The keys inside opens the side door, she said. The house was obscured by a sculpted hedgerow. Someone's pride, like a snowbank, like a wall. The front yard was bound by a picket fence, white, not a trace of irony in it. There was another fence, this one wood and wire, around the pool, which made the insurance more affordable. And also the home's owners knew that sometimes deer strayed into attractive nuisances. And if you were away for a couple of weeks, the stupid thing would drown, swell, explode, a horrifying mess. Clay fetched the key. Amanda stood, an astonishing, humid afternoon, listening to that strange sound of almost quiet that she missed, or claimed that she missed, because they lived in the city. You could hear the thrum of some insect or frog, or maybe it was both. The wind tossing about the leaves, the sense of a plane or a lawnmower, or maybe it was traffic on a highway somewhere distant that reached you just as the persistent beat of the ocean did when you were near the ocean. They were not near the ocean. No, they could not afford to be. But they could almost hear it, an act of will or recompense. Here we are. Clay unlocked the door, needlessly narrating. He did that sometimes and caught himself doing it, chastened. The house had that hush that expensive houses do. Silence meant that the house was plumb, solid, its organs working in happy harmony. The respiration of the central air conditioning, the vigilance of the expensive fridge, and the reliable intelligence of all those digital displays marking the time in almost synchronicity. At the pre-programmed hour, the exterior lights would turn on, a house that barely needed people. The floors were wide plank wood harvested from an old cotton mill in Utica. I've actually been to Utica. That's where Witch's Castle was. I actually did a whole video. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check it out. Just type in Witch's Castle and you should be able to find it. Where was I? Sorry. So flush there was nary or creak or complaint. The windows so clean that every month or so some common bird miscalculated and perished broken neck into the grass. Some efficient hands had been here, rolled up the blinds, turned down the thermostat, Windexed every surface, run the Dyson into the crevices of the sofa, picking up bits of organic blue corn tortilla chips, and errant dime. This is nice. Amanda took off her shoes at the door. She felt strongly about taking your shoes off at the door. I'm not going to lie, I feel the same way. This is beautiful, she said. The photographs on the website were a promise, and it was fulfilled. The pendant lamps hovering over the oak table, in case you wanted to do a jigsaw puzzle at night. The gray marble kitchen island where you could imagine kneading dough. The double sink beneath the window overlooking the pool. The stove with its copper faucet so you could fill up your pot without having to move it. The people who owned this house were rich enough to be thoughtful. She'd stand at the sink and soap up the dishes while Clay stood just outside, grilling, drinking a beer, a watchful eye on the children playing Marco Polo in the pool. I'll get the things, the subtext was clear. Clay was going to smoke a cigarette, a vice that was meant to be a secret, but obviously it was not. Amanda wandered through the place. There was a great room with a television, French doors out to the deck. There were 2 smallish bedrooms, color schemes of aqua and navy. Jack and Jill bathed between them. There was a closet with beach towels and a stacked washer and dryer. There was a long hallway to a master bedroom, lined with inoffensive black and white beach scenes. Leaving aside tasteful, everything was thoughtful. A wooden box to hide the plastic bottle of laundry soap, a huge seashell cradling a cake of soap, still in its paper wrapper. The master bed was king-size, so massive it never would have rounded the stairwell to get into their 3rd-floor apartment. The ensuite bath was all white, tile sink, soap, towels, a white dish of white seashells, that particular fantasy of purity to escape the reality of your own excrement. Extraordinary, and only $340 a day, plus the cleaning fee and refundable security deposit. From the bedroom, Amanda could see her children already wiggled into their quick-drying lycra. By the way, $340 a day, is that a good deal for Airbnb? Because, I live in Kentucky, and we were paying $550 a month for rent. So, I don't know. It just seems like a lot to me. But these are rich people. I mean, one's a professor, and sounds like she has an office job, and they live in New York. So, they're making quite a bit of money. Hurtling toward the placid blue. Archie, long limbs and acute angles, barely convex chest, sprouting brown twist at pink nipples. Oh my God. Rose, curvy and jiggling, downing with baby hair, her polka dot one piece, straining just so at the legs, pudendum in relief, an anticipatory scream. Then they met the water with that delicious clack. In the woods beyond, something startled at the sound, fluttered up into view from the general brown of the scene. 2 fat turkeys, dumb and wild and annoyed at the intrusion. Amanda smiled. So there we have it. We'll wrap it up there. There's chapter 1 and 2. Kind of getting to know the characters. It reminds me there at the beginning of the movie, so it's not in the book, obviously. We're just going to kind of comment on the differences. In the movie, Julia Roberts is the mom, Amanda, and she goes through this horrible, dark, negative, black-pilled speech about the world and how much she hates the world and hates everyone, and basically starts it off on a negative note. So I am sensing a negativity within it, just the way that the book describes the characters and how the people are kind of, I don't know, it just seems like the family's just kind of but so that's the only big difference I'm seeing right now. But we get to know the characters and they're setting the scene. So that's about it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. And check out my new Rumble channel. It's Conspiracy Corner Podcast. And this is Abe signing out. Stay tuned for the next episode.
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.